What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about something that I've talked about multiple times on the channel over the past 6 months, and it was brought up yesterday again in my video that I put out looking at some of these market values, and I think it was in regards to this card here, an alternate Zorro in a PSA 10. This is from Romance on $375. I got a comment from Coast City 7029. They comment a lot on the videos, and again, like this video isn't to insult anyone. I just want to discuss their comment a little bit and this kind of idea around booster box price, just because I see this so much in the One Piece community, and it's just not true, this kind of logic. So I'll explain my point, but we'll go over their comment first. They say it's crazy to see alternate arts like Nami and Zoro from OPL 1 going for $300 graded, but the sealed boxes go for $800. What exactly are people hoping to pull that would justify the sealed price? These singles need to move up a lot. So first of all, I absolutely disagree that these singles need to move up in order to justify the price of the booster boxes. This is the blue bottom I brought up, but they're probably referring to the white bottom second wave being around $800. I know TCG Player says it's a little bit less, but if you look at recent sales, these are basically $800 plus at this point. And if you guys have spent time in other TCGs, you would probably understand that this doesn't really make a ton of sense, but I'll give you an example from Pokemon. A lot of times, and again, some people agree with this, some people don't, but generally, if you look at a Pokemon booster box, if you take the top hit and you look at their PSA 10 value, you can assume that the booster box is going to get to around that price in the future. So when you look at the Shanks in Romance Dawn, first of all, raw, it's over $1,000. I think. I know it says $945 here approximately, but I think recent sales, you are over $1,000. So there is a card that you can pull out of the box that's worth more than $800 already, which is a good sign. But if you look at the PSA 10, it's what, $3,000 at this point. Now, the difference between a game like Pokemon and One Piece obviously is the gem rate. It's much higher in One Piece, so I don't think that you can put the same amount of emphasis on that metric in this game just because the gem rate is higher. But even if you took 50% of the PSA 10 value, that would still put you around $1,500 for a white bottom booster box. And I'm not saying I agree with that model, but the point I'm trying to get to begin with, and then I'll get to a second more important point later on in the video, is that there already is a lot of value that you can get out of a box like Romance Dawn. And the value of the booster box has never been directly tied to how much you can get out of it. That's why I know there's a couple creators in this space that they'll bring up Excel charts and they'll look at like ratios of booster box price to like the lowest amount of value you can get out of a box versus the highest amount of expected value. And to me, all of that's just worthless information, because the reality is a lot of people buying this stuff, if they're opening it, they do not care, okay? The value to them is the potential to get a very expensive hit. It's not necessarily that they're guaranteed to get $50 back or $100 back, right? It's just that there is a chance to get a $1,000 card or a $2,000 card, etc. And I've been talking about this for about 6 months now in regards to the Memorial Collection, EBO1. People told me for the longest time, after PRBO2 came out, all the reprinted cards came. For example, the Cavendish, what else was in there that got reprinted? Tashigi, Brook, some of these cards, Bond Clay as well, that after these boxes hit the market, this booster box of EBO1, it was going to the ground, right? It was going to crash in price. That obviously didn't happen. I mean, since the summer, it's basically just gone up. We're now over $400 for this booster box. I think recent sales too, you're actually getting close to like $420, $425. So why is a box like this continuing to go up in price, even though if you look at a lot of the cards inside of it, they've actually come down in value after those reprints? I mean, the Bond Clay, this was at its peak like an $80 card. It's now selling for around $25. The Cavendish Alt, this at its peak was around $80 as well. It's now selling for around $60. And even the Brook, I mean, this was up to around $50, $55. We're now sitting around $25. So if all of these cards inside the set are losing value, why is the booster box continuing to move up in price? And this all leads to point number 2, which I think is equally as important or more important than point number 1, which is that sealed booster boxes are deflationary assets. And I've said this multiple times on the channel, but it seems like a lot of people still don't grasp what I mean by that. And a booster box being a deflationary asset basically means that over time, there's going to be less and less of them out there. The supply is always shrinking because we're not getting more boxes. So for example, Wave 1 blue bottoms, Bandai is not going to go back and reprint these. They had error cards inside of them. They corrected that. in the wave 2. So every single day, there's less of these out there because some people open them, whether they want to gamble, they're being sold on rip and ships, they get destroyed, they get damaged, whatever, right? There's just less and less of them on the market. And that's what ultimately leads to a lot of the value in these boxes, because the reality is, even though a lot of people in the One Piece TCG space don't want to accept this, these are a sealed collectible that has inherent value to sealed collectors as that item. It doesn't matter what's inside of it. It just matters that it is a sealed box. It's part of history. And for people that don't really understand that, I point you to, let's say, I don't know, very old jeans, right? Like there are people that are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for some of the first pairs of Levi jeans that like old coal miners would wear, right? And they're torn up and destroyed, but it's such a rare thing that there are certain people out there willing to hold that. Same thing with very rare wines. The utility of that initially was to drink, right? That's why people made wine. But nowadays, it's a collectible. It stays in a wine cellar or whatever. If your friends come over, right, your super rich, posh friends, you want to show it off, you'll bring out that bottle. Same thing with very rare violins or guitars. These were instruments that were meant to be played, but nowadays people collect them and hold them maybe because a super famous artist used it, or it's made of a certain type of wood, or it was made by a certain craftsman who, I don't know, maybe they only made 10 in their lives or whatever and they died 100 years ago, right? Like there's reasons why people collect things and don't utilize their original utility, okay? That's why people aren't wearing 100-year-old Levi jeans. They're protecting them. It's why people aren't using these old violins and guitars as the instrument of their choice to produce music. And it's the same thing with the booster box. There are going to be people now that want to hold this because it's a part of history. The Romance Dawn booster box, blue bottom, it was the first release of the One Piece TCG set that came out in December 2022, and it's a piece of history at this point. And I know there are going to be people out there that don't really understand this, but this has happened in basically every other TCG before this. I mean, you can go back and look at some failed card games, Naruto, for example. There are booster boxes still selling. This sold October 1st, $710 for a sealed booster box. Neopets, right? Neopets from, I don't know, like the 2004 era, 2005 era, WotC, $830 approximately. This sold November 2nd. So a couple days ago at this point. Also, Harry Potter released multiple sets of their TCG cards, and they all look terrible, by the way, if you look at the actual cards, but the sealed product still selling for over $1,000, and this ended at the end of September. So these things don't sell super often. There's definitely niche markets for them, but because there are so few on the market, if a collector wants one of these in mint condition, they're going to be able to purchase those on the secondary market if they desire. So the point I'm trying to get at, and to relate this to investing in One Piece, is that you don't have to worry if it doesn't make sense to you. If you think that the box is too expensive because the cards inside are only selling for a couple $100 in PSA 10, I would recommend reading a little bit more, doing a bit more research into TCGs, and understanding that even a set like Romance Dawn, which is the most expensive set in One Piece, is probably still undervalued, as ridiculous as that sounds. And other sets, I mean, you throw in PRBO 1, OPO 9, OPO 5, I think all of those are incredibly undervalued. And I know there's going to be some people who leave a comment down below saying, well, Grayson, you just made a video talking about the top 10 values and saying how that's super important when it comes to booster box investing. And I'm not saying that the value of the top 10 cards or top 15 cards, the top chase card, isn't important, because that is incredibly important. It's tied to how well a booster box will do in the future, but it's not the only thing that matters. A booster box could still reach $500, $1,000 without it having a ton of value. I mean, if you look at a set like, say, Two Legends in the future, if you give it enough time, it will eventually get to $300, $400, $500, even if the game failed, right? If we looked at this 20 years from now, Two Legends would more than likely be $1,000 plus booster box. It's the same reason why Neopets has booster boxes selling for $830. It's the same reason why Harry Potter has booster boxes selling for $1,500, why Naruto has booster boxes selling for over $700. It's because even if this game fails, there's going to be less and less boxes out there as time goes on, because again, people will destroy them, people will open them, and then eventually, time goes on, it becomes very difficult to find them. And if someone wants one, right? If they become a One Piece fan, or they are a One Piece fan, they decide they want to collect all the boxes, it's going to be more difficult to find. You're going to have to pay a premium, and that's how things move up in this world, right? It's deflationary. And by the way, we're already seeing this start to happen in One Piece. If you look at a set like Pillars of Strength, this is now what, $350 based on current sales, maybe closer to 330 over the past couple days on TCG Player. Kingdoms of Intrigue, we're up to around $240, $250 on this booster box. These are sets that outside of Royal Blood and then two Legends and maybe Paramount War, these are some of the lowest sets in terms of top 10 value. They don't have incredible chase cards inside of them, but they're still going for 2-3x MSRP already a couple years after release. So hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble too long about this. And again, this isn't to throw shade at anyone. This is a common thing that people don't really understand when they come into the TCG world. And it's kind of counterintuitive for a lot of people because they come in expecting to play the TCG and the cards are the only thing that matters to them. But once you understand that there are people who want to collect these things for the sealed boxes, they don't actually plan to open them, they view it as a collectible item, that's where things start to make a little bit more sense and you can see the light. So if you guys got some value out of this video, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below for the algorithm. It really does help out a ton. Also, if you are shopping eBay, TCG Player, Hobbiesville, Cardboard Hero, I have affiliate links down below. They're free and easy to use. All you have to do is click on it before you do your shopping, and then I'll get a percentage of the sale at no extra cost to you. So it's a free and easy way to support the channel. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great week. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.